today I'm speaking to you in the context of being an author, and the book is called Enchantment. And I think of any group of people, you would understand the necessity for enchanting people as a founder, because you have to enchant people to come to work for you. You have to enchant investors. You have to enchant your first customers. You have to enchant your partners and your vendors. So this is all about enchantment. I have been speaking and watching speakers for about 30 years in Silicon Valley now, and I'll tell you the two things about most tech speakers, particularly for large CXO level speakers from companies, is that two salient facts about them. First, they pretty much all suck as speakers, except with the exception of Steve Jobs, perhaps. So they suck as speakers, and then they also go long. They go longer than their slot, and that's a bad combination, you know, because if they were short and they sucked, it would be okay. And if they were great and they went long, it would be okay. But when you suck and you go long, it's like being stupid and arrogant. Like if your software was slow and hard to use, that's a bad combination. So what I do is I use the top 10 format so that in case you think my speech sucks, at least you know approximately how much longer it'll suck. It will be 10 points in this presentation. A little bit more about my background. I worked in the Macintosh division for Steve Jobs, which was a really interesting experience, using the word interesting loosely. Because we worked for him, we had very special rules, unlimited supplies of fresh orange juice, $2 a bottle. We had a travel policy that I suggest you do not implement at your companies. The travel policy was that any flight over 2 hours, we could fly first class. My interpretation of that rule, because the interpretation is the key, is that the 2 hours begins at the moment you leave your apartment. So I lived in Los Alamos, flew out of SFO. I would fly first class to Monterey. So it was a very, very interesting time. And back then, another thing you should not do that the Macintosh division did is at Apple at that time was divided between the Apple II people and the Macintosh people, and the Apple II people were shipping. They were making boatloads of money. And so if you looked at by contrast, the Macintosh division was not shipping, so we were losing and spending boatloads of money. So if you looked at the Apple P&L back then, the P was Apple II, the L was Macintosh. But we would not let Apple II division people into our building. So if you ever have when you reach this pinnacle of success, you have multiple divisions. Don't ever have it so that one division cannot go into the part of the other division's building, especially if that other part is paying for the building, because that really tends to piss people off. So the Apple II division people came up with these great jokes about us, such as how many Macintosh division employees would take the screw in the light bulb. The answer is the Macintosh division employee holds up the light bulb and expects the universe to revolve around him. I want to just, Microsoft a sponsor here? No? Okay. So I will ensure they never will be. The Microsoft version of this joke is how many Microsoft employees does it take to screw in a light bulb? And the answer to that is none, because Steve Ballmer has declared darkness the new standard. So I am going to talk to you today about enchantment, this process of developing a delightful relationship with your customers, your investors. Well, that's a stretch that you'll enchant your investors and they'll stay enchanted, but just between us. But about enchantment, how to create this delightful, long-lasting, deep, and voluntary relationship, okay? Speech about enchantment. And man, this has a lot of buttons just to, is this the right button? Yeah? We'll see. Yes, sir. So, step one in becoming enchanted is to become likable. If you think about it, have you ever been enchanted by someone you did not like? Probably not. So this seems like really a dualism, blocking and tackling, and it is. There are so many people who don't have likability mastered. So let's start with the basics of likability. It starts with a great smile. Now, this is an example of not a great smile. This is what's called the Pan Am smile. The danger of me using this analogy is, how many of you have not heard of Pan Am? Because there are some audiences where they literally have not heard of Pan Am. It's an airline anyway. So this flight attendant is not truly happy to see the passengers. She's faking a smile. She's only using her jaw muscles. If you want a truly great smile, it's called a Duchenne smile. And this Duchenne smile uses two sets of muscles, not only the jaw, but also the eyes. The eyes are the key to a great smile. And you see, this is Mary Smith of Facebook fame, Facebook and social media. She has a great smile, world-class smile. One of the telling evidence of a great smile is you have crow's feet. Crow's feet, I've never figured out if it's is or are. Crow's feet is good. You want crow's feet. Forget the Botox, forget the plastic surgery. You actually want crow's feet. And Mary is a friend of mine. I sent her an email. I said, you know, Mary, I have good news for you and bad news for you. The good news is you're in my enchantment presentation. I will explain what you do. I will show you a picture to thousands of people every year. The bad news is you're in my enchantment presentation because you really have crow's feet, Mary. Luckily, she has a sense of humor. And she said, okay, use my picture. Make a Duchenne smile. Second thing is dress for a tie. There are three theories in dressing. You can dress underneath your audience. You know they'll all be in business attire, but you're going to, damn it, wear t-shirt and jeans because you can get away with it. You don't respect your audience. You could also overdress. When you overdress, you wear something much higher than your audience. In that sense, the audience is taking this message from you that I am better than you, I am richer than you, I have better taste than you. Somehow that you think you're superior to the audience. So what you want to do is dress as equals. Basically, you're saying to the audience, I'm one of you. So to the extent possible, try to figure out how your audience will be dressed. Dress as equals. The last thing is the perfect handshake. This is the formula for the perfect handshake, created by the University of Manchester. This is not US tax dollars, this is UK tax dollars. The US, we like to save our tax dollars for bombs. So, this is the perfect handshake. It is about eye contact. It is about the length of the handshake, what you say, the distance, the firmness of your squeeze. This is the perfect handshake. You don't need to write this down. I'll give you a way to get this PDF afterwards. So a key point here is to start with the basics of likability. Great smile. Equal dressing. I don't see many of you in aloha shirts today, though. And finally, this perfect handshake. Now, you can be likable, and I want to give you a person to aspire to. This is Richard Branson. And Richard Branson and Virgin, to me, personify likability in a brand. This is a picture of he and I in Moscow. Seconds before this picture was snapped, he asked me if I flew on Virgin, and I said, no, I never fly on Virgin because I'm a United Airlines Global Services level, which is the highest level of United Airlines. So I didn't want to jeopardize my status with United Airlines by flying on other airlines whenever possible. And at that moment, in real time, this is what he did. He got on his hands and knees, or hands, and he started polishing my shoes with his jacket. And that's the day I started flying Virgin America. He's a very likable person, I have to say. You know what? It's going to be a long time before Steve Jobs gets on his knees and polishes your shoes for you to use an iPad. Trust me when I tell you this, okay? So, as far as likability, your goal, Richard Branson. The next thing is to be trustworthy, because you can be likable, but not trustworthy. You could like a Hollywood celebrity, for example, but not trust that Hollywood celebrity. You could like an extreme Charlie Sheen, but not trust Charlie Sheen. So if you want to be enchanting, you also have to be trustworthy. The key to trustworthiness is to understand the sequence of events. This is a serial process. The way it works is you trust your customers, they will trust you. It is not chicken or egg. Amazon trusts you. You can buy a Kindle book and you can return it for up to 7 days. No questions asked, full credit. Most people could read a book in 7 days. They trust you. Zappos trusts women to buy shoes, and if they don't like them, return them. Zappos pays shipping both ways. If Tony Hsieh had told me that our business model is to enable people, particularly women, to buy shoes without trying them on or seeing them, I would have told him he was nuts. That no woman would buy a shoe like that. And Nordstrom is the classic brick and mortar example of a company that has trusted its customers, so its customers trust it. The key point here is the order of events is you trust people, they trust you. If you have the attitude of, if they trust me, then I will trust them, you will not be trustworthy. Second thing is you need to become a baker, not an eater. An eater sees a pie and says, zero-sum game. I need to eat as much of the pie as possible. What I eat, somebody else doesn't eat. What somebody else eats, I don't eat. I need to grab as much of the pie as possible. Bakers, by contrast, see the world as a not zero-sum game. They think that they can bake bigger pies, they can bake more pies. They're all about this rising tide, floating all boats. They're about establishing a market that everyone can succeed in. Bakers are trustworthy, eaters are not. And the final thing is to always default to a yes attitude. That is, when you meet people, you're always thinking, how can I help them? Which is very different than thinking, how can they help me? Always be thinking, how can I help you? Default to a yes attitude, and you'll become very trustworthy. So now we have this basis of trustworthiness. Think Zappos. So likability is Virgin. Trustworthiness is Zappos. And we move on to getting ready. Great product, great service. What is a great product or great service? These are the 5 salient qualities of a great product or service. First, it's deep. Lots of features. Lots of functionality. I don't know if he's in the audience yet, but my friend from Evernote, Phil Lisbon, that Evernote is a deep product. It does a lot of stuff, right? iPod, iPhone, iPad version, desktop version, Windows version, Macintosh version, all the plugins. It does a lot of stuff. Great products and great services do a lot of stuff. They are also intelligent. When you look at them, you say, someone understood my pain. Someone solved my pain. Someone understood my pain probably better than I understood my pain. They solved a real problem for me. I'll give you a real-world example. This is a picture of a Ford Mustang, GT500 Shelby Mustang. It has 550 horsepower. It goes 0 to 60 in 4.2 seconds. This is a badass Mustang. This Mustang is equal to 10 Priuses. Okay? I love cars. Asian man going through a midlife crisis. Of course we love cars. I love cars. I want to buy this car. There's a fundamental problem here, though. I have 2 teenage sons, 15 and 17. One has a license, one is getting a permit. Inevitably, they will be driving whatever I drive. And the thought of them driving a 550 horsepower Mustang is socially irresponsible. Okay? And so that limits my choices here. Should I buy this car? And what is making it a lot more likely that I'll buy this car is that I found out that Ford has a product called My Key. And what My Key does is it enables you to program the top speed of the car into the key. So I could give the key to my sons programmed to 55 miles per hour. That is an extremely intelligent product. Next thing is completeness. Great products, great services are complete. It's the totality of the solution. It's not just the software, it's the software, the manual, the documentation, the online support, the conferences, the plugins, the app developers. It's the totality of it. Great products are complete. They are also empowering. They make you feel more powerful, creative, productive. They change your life. And the last thing is great products are elegant. Someone cared about the user interface design. So as you prepare, ask yourself, are you creating something that's deep, intelligent, complete, empowering, and elegant? Are you rolling the dice? The next thing you need to do is to describe your product or service in short, sweet, and swallowable, non-acronym terms. Right? This was an ad made for the city of New York right after 9/11, which it says, if you see something, say something. It's that simple. Loose lips sink ships. It's something like that. It's 2, 3, 4 words that describe what your product does. It is not 50 words. It is not a mission statement. It's a mantra. Authentic athletic performance, Nike. Democratized design, Target. Democratized commerce, eBay. Think of these kinds of examples. Short, sweet, and swallowable. No acronyms. Short, sweet, and swallowable. Next thing is an example of the non-short, sweet, and swallowable. About 2 weeks ago, I was on a trip back east taking my sons to look at colleges in New England. And this is a sign that I saw on the campus of Brown University. So this is what it takes for Ivy League students to cross the street. This is not short. This is not sweet. And this is not swallowable. And the funny story is that I took a picture of this at Brown, and the next day I went to Yale, and there was the same street sign. So it's something about the Ivy League. They need signs. Short, sweet, and swallowable. Not this. The next thing is to conduct a pre-mortem. Very important for entrepreneurs. You know, a post-mortem is after you fail. You try to figure out why you failed. A lot of finger pointing, a lot of anger. Many of the team members may no longer be with you. You fired them, they quit, whatever. It's not that constructive. It's not that useful once you're dead. Instead, I suggest you conduct a pre-mortem. The way the pre-mortem works is you assemble the team prior to shipping and you say, okay, let's just pretend that we failed. Why did we fail? Let's come up with all the reasons why we could have failed. And then let's go down through that list and eliminate those reasons so we never have to do a post-mortem. Software is buggy, marketing is incomplete, sales forces lack sophistication. You know, come up with all those reasons. Let's see how many we can eliminate so that there's never a post-mortem. Conduct a pre-mortem, not a post-mortem. Then you need to launch. The key to launching is to tell a story. Not about the fifth paradigm of personal computing with patent pending, curve jumping, paradigm shifting, new crappy technology that you have. Tell a story about two guys in a garage, two gals in a garage, a guy and a gal in a garage. They were frustrated that the only place they could use a computer was at a bank or at a large company or at a university or at a library or something like that. They thought there must be a better way. Why can't we have a computer in our house? Why can't we have a personal computer? And that's why we started Apple. Tell a story. Great apocryphal story about eBay is that Pierre Amadiar's girlfriend wanted to sell Pez dispensers online. That's the genesis of eBay. Totally made up story, but it is a great story. Tell a story. Tell a story. Next thing is plant many seeds. There are two theories of marketing right now. One theory is top-down. You find the A-lister, the Wall Street Journal, New York Times, Wired, you know, this famous blogger with millions of page views, millions of followers. You suck up to that blogger. If you can't stand the sucking up, you hire a PR firm to suck up for you, right? So you suck up to this A-lister, this famous journalist, this power broker, Oracle. And then hopefully that person will try your product, love your product, bless your product, and tell the great unwashed masses and the rest of us to use this product, and they make your product. That's marketing 1.0. Marketing 1.0 has been flipped and inverted. Marketing 2.0 is where you plant many seeds because it is the nobodies who are the somebodies. Okay? Nobodies are the new somebodies. Nobody you could identify, nobody you've heard of. It is the generic lonely boy 15. Lonely boy 15 with 50 followers and 25 friends on Facebook. That person loves your product, tells his 75 friends. They tell their friends. And pretty soon you wake up and you have thousands of people using your product or service. Could you have found Lonely Boy 15? No. Is Lonely Boy 15 famous? No. Could you suck up to Lonely Boy 15? Not if you can't find them. The key here is you have to plant many seeds. You should assume that you need to plant many seeds because you don't know which Lonely Boy 15 is going to make your product tip. You know, when most books come out, the publishers send out about 150 or so review copies. We sent out 1,600 review copies. There are 328 reviews of Enchantment right now. And they're not just from book editors. Of course, I'm not saying you should ignore the A-list. I'm saying you should just go beyond the A-list. There are book reviews of my book by people like vegetarian blogs, esthetician blogs. You know, estheticians who usually write about mascara and eyeliner, they're writing about enchantment. You know, if 1% of all the people who care about beauty bought my book, you know how large that market would be, using an argument you probably use. How hard could it be to get 1% of people interested in beauty? You know how large that number would be? So the point here is plant many seeds. Plant many seeds. I think the way it works now is if you plant many seeds and your product or service becomes successful, then the A-list has to write about you. You know, think about it. Twitter is 5 years old. Try and find an article that's 5 years old where some oracle, some A-lister, some famous person, Wall Street Journal, New York Times, Wired, CNET, any of them. Find me an article that says, today I saw Twitter. It is the future of communications. People are using it right now to tell other people that their cat rolled over, or the line at Starbucks is long. But someday, Twitter will be so powerful, it will take down governments. Find me an article that said that 5 years ago. The truth is that Twitter became successful because at a South by Southwest about 4 years ago, the nobodies started using Twitter. And more people started using Twitter until finally the A-list had to recognize Twitter for what it has become. Plant many seeds. The next thing is to use salient points. On the left side, you'll see what the industry likes to use. On the right side, you'll see what people care about. Not miles per gallon, but yearly costs. If you're in the not-for-profit business, people like to discuss in terms of dollars. How many dollars did they raise? What really people care about is how many months of food did the donation buy. And in the gadget business, do people think in gigabytes or number of songs? They think in terms of number of songs and movies and apps. Use the stuff on the right. Yearly cost, months of food, number of songs to discuss your product or your service. The fifth thing is to overcome resistance. You will encounter resistance. Ironically, probably the more innovative your product or service, the more resistance you'll encounter. This is a picture of a robot that was manufactured by Nintendo in the 70s. In the 70s, the electronic gaming business was very tarnished. Retailers did not want to stock games. So Nintendo did a very clever thing. It created this robot and added it to the game and called it a toy. Retailers were not against stocking toys, they were against stocking games. So it called it a toy. In fact, it called it an educational toy. In fact, it convinced kids to ask their parents for an educational toy that taught them robotics for Christmas. That's overcoming resistance. More ways to overcome resistance. Provide social proof. You know, when the iPod first came out, you noticed people wearing white earbuds. After a while, you started noticing more and more people using white earbuds. After a while, you bought an iPod, so now there was one more white earbud in the world.